Good morning. Here is morning in Sweden, and it's like it is fall, but it is. I think it was July 26th, 2022, at least a year and a month also, but a day I'm not sure. It my neighbor upstairs they have their kids at home. So if it sounds in things in the background, is it they who jump in the floor over in my ceiling? They jumping on the floor, and it's not nice to have this family over me that have 3 kids under 7 years old. So they are running and jumping and do things, and I hear it in my apartment. And if it's be too much, I drive out, and I will drive out later on today, and hope it doesn't go raining again. It was heavy rain this morning. It's this man I talked about the last episode. He from Africa. He wrote me back, and he say that he should listen at my the episodes. He say that to me, but I never know what you are doing, and if you listen at all episodes. I have only got 2 people that have wrote me in these 2 years I have done my podcast, so that I don't know what is going on, but it doesn't matter, because I do my job under God, under heaven, and that's it. I have to focus on working for heaven and not working for the world. In some way I am working for the world, to help the world to understand what's going on. But I think I have a small part of it. It's not about what I'm doing. It's more what they are doing in heaven, how they make people come to know. I am only a voice for they in heaven, but it's their work to bring people to the podcast or my websites or other platforms I am on. In other ways, I have been on internet since 1994, but I have only been under God since 2000. So those old things is something about the world. I started doing websites for psychology websites, because I have just been educated at the university in psychology, and I was thinking I should make money of it, to be on internet and people pay for to get advice from me. But in that time, 1994, was it forbidden to do such things. but I be interested of creating websites instead. So I continue with website design instead, graphics designs, and I only do the part of talking here in my podcast. I can't do anything. I am very powerless. If people doesn't come to the podcast, then I have failed in this, and I like in the past episodes of cosmology, it's things must come together to create something, and so the podcast is only one part is that I recording and release episodes. That's only one part of the cosmology laws, that things must come together to be something. And I can sit here and recording episodes, and no one is coming and listen. Then it's worthless to do it. But I do episodes, and then heaven have to do their things to bring people here, and they do, but not as not so many as I thought it could be. But it's also that cosmology is also that you as listener, that you tell people about this podcast and not have it a secret for you, and you need to repost those episodes. It's your part. So that is the cosmology law, that it must be many parts to be a full thing, to be a success. We all must help each other to come to be something, so the world, we can reach the world with it. And like this man from Africa, he said that he was raised, his parents told him about God, and he was raised from what his parents had said. And immediately when I read it, I was thinking, so how do you know that your parents was right? They told you what to believe in, and of course, as a child, we believe that our parents they are like God for us. They can never die. They can't never do anything wrong. So of course a child, and child is very much to receive everything what an adult are saying, and so it's built up that person to have this belief that his parents believe in, and maybe also the generation before the parents have believed the same thing and the same thing and same thing. This is what I'm talking about. This that it can start with an error for 500 years ago, and it continue from generation to generation to generation, and the parents brainwash the children to believe in what they believe in, and in many ways it's their way to build themselves stronger, that I I have right when I believe in these things, because I can convince my children to believe the same. So it's be like feeding them that if they doubt themselves sometimes, they can see that on the children that they believe in that. So that encourage the parents to hold into this belief and never think about maybe is it wrong, this thinking I have in some things. But then when they see the children and they have like built up a boundary, I don't know what boundary is, but it's what it said to me from a spirit. And it's like make them a prison, because their children is the walls for them to change their mind, to look at the source and look at, and if they think that is it true, this, can it be like that, then they hold it back and never work on it if they have any doubt. So in that way they dig their own grave. And so if you, I will repeat a little where I'm coming from, because people don't listen at the episodes where I talking about my life, and for you to trust me, to understand that it's true, this what I hear from God, you must know where I'm coming from. I didn't believe in God, I didn't believe in the Bible, I didn't believe in any religion until I was 48 years old. 48 years old, 48 years old. And my life was so very bad, and I find out the man I married, he had HIV, and I be scared, and I was thinking that mostly was it, I was thinking that I have killed my own daughter, because my husband took care of my daughter sometimes if she have been hurt and bleeding, and then he took care of it. And in that time, in year 2000, we didn't know so much about HIV, so only a kiss could make us get HIV. We were thinking like that. So I was in shock, and I didn't want to live, because I have been married in Texas, but my husband did bad things in Texas, so we had to move back to Sweden to not be forced to live on the street in Texas. So in Sweden we could have a apartment and have a nice life in Sweden instead to be homeless in Texas. So we were forced to come back to Sweden, and unfortunately I took with me my husband, because he had cheating on me in Texas, but I was thinking I should forgive him for that, at least forgive him once and move on. So I did, and bring him to Sweden with me. But in Sweden he continued to do bad things and was drinking very much and do drugs and was out the whole night long. And I felt, when I heard that he had HIV, I felt everything fall apart. It's broke down. I have failed to change my daughter and my life. She was very bright in Texas, my daughter, and the teacher loved her, and my daughter wanted to be the president of United States when we live in Texas, and everything fall apart, and I felt it was I didn't want to live anymore because of all that bad things that happened, and the devil was on me also very much. I dream very much about the devil, and that I fight with the devil, and so I wanted to go and into the sea and make a suicide. But before I did a suicide, it was very much going on in the home. And we believed that there was a ghost. We didn't believe in God, so what people thinking is, if you are into religion, you maybe think there is demons going around in the home, but we were not into God. So we were thinking it was a ghost that was in our home. So we tried to talk to those ghosts and sit down and waiting for the ghost to talk. But instead it come what I was thinking after I have started to go into a church. I was thinking that it was Jesus Christ that was standing in my room, in our home, and talked to us. But later on now, this year, have the angels told me that it was not Jesus Christ that was in the room. So stop thinking that it was Jesus Christ. I come to know that it's a higher priest, and the higher priest is not Jesus. Jesus, I have seen Jesus in heaven, and he is in the garden. But I have met 6 men that have white beard and white clothes, white hair, and they are higher priests. And they are in a cloud, a white cloud. So what you read in the Bible about the clouds and the pillar and those things is the higher priest that coming down sometimes here on earth. And one of them was standing in my home and was talking to me about my childhood. And he told me things that I didn't remember that have affected me, and how I was killed when I was about 2-3 years old. I was driven over of a truck because my adopted sister pushed me out in the street and I was killed. But when I was as dad laying nude in a cold, dark room, there come a light over my body from the ceiling, and someone was holding me in my arms, like felt like metallic arms. So it was. I I think it was the higher priest that was holding my hands, and the light was shining on my body, and I come back to life. And my mother talked about it many times in my childhood, how I was so close to die, she say, because she didn't know my experience of it. But this higher priest told me everything in details what was happened, and I be healed from my childhood. So what I'm talking about my childhood is only my life experience. It's not nothing that I grieve for, is bitter about. I only have to tell you this because for you to understand and know who I am, that talking like I do, and how can heaven be so close to me? Why am God coming down and talk to us sometimes? And you need to know who I am. That I was, I was, I was listen because it sounds like thunderstorm, but it can be my neighbor upstairs that sounds like that. Um, but how I come to be so close to God, I know I was sent to earth from heaven to do what I'm doing, and the plan in God's plan was not that I should make a suicide. So when the higher priest stopped talking and disappeared, just after that came a voice in the air, a very loudly voice, and I thought it was that our neighbors should wake up because it was about midnight in that time when that voice come. But not even my daughter heard God. So that was a spirit thing. It was God's spirit that come and talked to me. But I heard his voice. But my daughter that sit for 2 meters from me, she didn't hear God. And so that's how I know God is a spirit. And I know how God voices when he talking. Some people have said to me that it can be the devil that is talking to you. The devil have talking to you the whole time. But I know the voice of God because he was in my home, and he make me have only one way to go, and it was to leave everything. I leave everything that I had in Sweden. I even left my own country to go back to United States on my own, and I didn't have done any paperwork. I have not signed out from Sweden. I have not signed into United States. I have not cut off all the bills I had in Sweden. I had not done anything. I only take the flight and fly to Seattle in Washington state, and from there without any money, I come to Chicago, from Seattle to Chicago, from Chicago to Florida, from Florida to North Carolina and to Virginia, and there where I was going to be homeless and come to know God, how He helped me the whole way. I had a gun on me, I have knife on me, I was robbed, I was raped, and everything happened to me. And I was to the church every day, in many church per day, maybe 4 or 5 church per day, and ask for help. And no one helped me. And it was a test I did. It was not that in myself I should be homeless. The homeless I had in the United States was to test the church. What are the church doing to help a person? And I was mostly in what they call a black church. There is black churches. It's churches where they don't want any white person to enter in. People don't want white people there. So they are real black church. It's not offended things to say it, because that's the fact. So it was very, the old people could see me because I was white. And that's why I went to those churches. It was not me going to those churches. It was in the morning when we have to leave the shelter early in the morning, and every morning I say to God, show me where you want me to go. And He always wanted me to enter into those, mostly was it small black churches. So it was so very clear, and that also make God test those African American people, how they treat white people. And it was very much about they were better than the white people. The white people didn't want at all to have with me to do. And but the black people, they say, when they find out that I was homeless and I didn't do any drugs and I didn't do any prostitution, then they say that to me, that you are lower than us. You are like it was before, when we couldn't go in restaurants for white people. We couldn't go in there. We couldn't go with a bus, and you are on the same level as we were before. You are lower than us, they say, the black people. So everyone have their agenda about me, and the white people were more like they ignore me. It was most that they felt shame that I was homeless, and though they were not homeless, it was people that I work with, and some people I met in the church, and sometimes I was in a mixed church, and they didn't want to see homeless white people, because homeless white people, I saw them, but that was prostitutes that was on their way home to go and sleep, and they pass by and eat food from those homeless kitchen where it was free food, and they pass by and eat food there before they went home to sleep in the morning. The opposite. They have been working the whole night. And so that was the only. So I understand that it was confusing for them, because they could see that I didn't do drugs and I didn't was prostitute, and I was white and homeless. But they never asked me why I was homeless and who I was. No one. And it maybe is that's why I be so upset over that you don't want to know where I'm coming from. You don't understand how much I struggle. When God took me out from everything to follow, first I followed Jesus. I walk with Jesus in the United States. But for about 2 weeks ago or less, I come to understand that Jesus left me when I come back to Sweden. He left me there. He walked with me only in the United States when I was homeless, and he talked to me about his life. Jesus was talking to me how it was in his time. And then because of that, you that have not listened at that episode, it was in 2004, late 2004. I come home in May, and then I very fast got a boyfriend, and he was from Nigeria, Africa. And one time when he come with a train, and I standing and waiting for him, and he was coming, and when he come close to me, he say, why are you bleeding in your forehead? He said to me, and I didn't know that I were bleeding, but I had bleeding it before, so I knew that it was a bleeding there, but I have not noticed it. I have not felt it, and so I said to him that is one of the torn of though Jesus had this crown on his head of thorn when he was hanging on the cross. I say, that's the thorn of the crown. I say to him that Jesus had. And in that way I understand I was hanging on the cross and had that crown. So that was the end of me walking together with Jesus. And then I have to go with something else and be taught and learn from heaven in another way than that Jesus was with me. So I passed by Jesus. I didn't stop with Jesus. I continue to develop in the spirit way and in God's plan for me, and I hope it's for the world. I hope it is, but I can't be sure. I don't know I know who I am, but I don't know where I'm going. Uh, and it's the same thing that the heaven have told me. Um, Heaven were telling me many times that uh, the day, the day, the end of days, when everything stop, uh, everything here on earth stop, and we receive like heaven here on earth, that every evil thing is going away and it turn around and be like a paradise here on earth. That time, that day, that year, heaven don't know. It's because it's depend on us here on earth. It's depend on how we act, what we deny or raise, and what we are doing with what they are saying to us, what they want to have connection with us from heaven. And people is saying that it's demons, and they prayer to those spirit to go away. And of course they go away. It's not the prayer, it's about how people act, that they refuse, they deny the spirits from heaven to could talk to them. And that means that this earth is doomed if everyone deny that they hear from heaven. And they say, when they hear from heaven, they say it's demons, it's ghosts, it's evil things, it's negative, and we should not listen at them. And that depend on if people want to receive, and they receive from heaven, then the end of day will come, and will be a paradise here on earth. But if they continue to deny that heaven can't do anything more than to turn to another planet and work on that planet instead. And it's we are like small gods because we can decide if we want to have heaven to come down here on earth, or if we want the evil to take place all over the world and doom our earth. Because from the beginning, before God come over this planet and put the light on this planet, it was darkness and deep. In the deep, it was a void of every good things, because it was looked as an evil planet, this planet we live in now. And the light come down and trying to spread the light all over the world, but though they are very tricky, these evil people that is here on earth that have with the devil to do. They can look very beautiful. They can be everything what we want in a person. And not in God's will, but what we want it to be. That person should be. That the devil give us to deceive us. And that's what they did from the start. When the light come down, and the spirits that come down here on earth, that have the light with them, they were, now is a knowledge coming here, that I have, they have told us that the closer they are coming to Earth, the more they be like us again. They coming back to their bodies. They coming back to be weak here on Earth, and they stretch out the line to heaven. So the more closer they are coming to Earth, the more weak they will go, and more like us they will be, and they forget heaven, how it is, and how they were thinking in heaven. And when they come close to Earth, that's what caused the problem when God was sending the light into this world, because our planet was dark and there was no light in it. It was to be killed or kill. It was only that, only to survive on your own, not take care of other people. You have to survive by yourself and by kill, or you will be killed. So that, and when the light come down, the spirits come down here that God have sent, they go weak when they come to be here on Earth. Yeah. So the spirit, they were not so much into the spirit. The spirit was there, but it was fed, because this planet was so evil. So they didn't be fed, and those evil things, they were those coming there and had everything, those that come from God, they wanted it, because when they come down close to Earth, they also got their wants that they didn't need in heaven. Their wants is not in heaven. It's only here on Earth. The greed is only here on Earth. And when they come closer to the planet, it come up on them. So it was easy for those evil men or women to come and get children of them. And our planet continued to be both good and evil things, and as it looked like now, is it the evil that have most power just now, and we on Earth, we have to decide. I have already decided, but you that listen, you have to decide if you want to believe in what you hear here in this podcast, or if you want to deny it. It's up to you, but you should know that if everyone is denying, that's how this planet will be doomed. But as it says that I don't really know if it's really saying that in the Bible that it will be so. It can be that heaven will come down here on our planet. But they say also that's up to us to decide when the last day will come, or it never will come. that's why you don't get the answer from Jesus, because he couldn't ask God about it, because God was was and are waiting for us to make the decision. And I will tell you that the man that I was talking to him about his wife that have passed away for 3 years ago, he blocked me. He decided to not believe in what I was saying, and he blocked me from Facebook. His to First I saw that in a messenger that it was closed to could write to him, and then he have taken away me as a friend. So he make the decision to not believe, and I see on the statistic also for this podcast, it's people come and go, and this and few decide you for to stay with my podcast and listen and want to know more, and you that is my follower, most of you that is my follower, you have look at where I'm coming from, and you know it now a little where I'm coming from, that I am not an ordinary person. God did choose me in year 2000 that I should do more. Maybe because I survived everything attack, and he took me out from everything to really educate me what's going on in heaven and who he is. And if you follow me and want to know everything, you will also know God, and you will also know heaven. You will not be frightened to come to die. You don't die, but move over to the other side. You are not going to be afraid, because you know, because you hear what they are saying to us about heaven, and I have also been in heaven, and what we are saying. And if you know God and you know heaven, you will never be afraid to die, to pass away. It can be much pain, but you waiting for that moment when you're going away from your body, that suffering, and go up in heaven with the spirit of yours. So thank you for listening, and God bless you. God loves you, you know that, and I love you too.